More information about Thor, new details about God of War Ragnarok's cut content, all that and more coming to you right now. God of War Ragnarok has been out for more than a month now, but with more and more people finishing the game, there is still a lot to discuss about one of 2022's best games. In this video, we are going to go over some news pertaining to the God of War series, including a newly revealed questline that was absent from the late game of God of War Ragnarok, a God of War TV series adaptation over at Amazon's Prime Video, before wrapping up the video with a good discussion surrounding Thor. Big spoiler warning before we continue, you have been warned. The death of Thor has stirred up the fanbase of God of War Ragnarok as to whether or not he is actually dead and whether we will see him in a future God of War game in the series. Before we get into that speculation and the news, I just wanted to point out real quick that I have started a massive new series contained in a new playlist on my channel, titled God of War, where it will go next. In this series, we explore the hints we've seen throughout the entire God of War saga as to which new pantheons the God of War series could take us next. So go ahead and watch that, linked in the description or at the end of this video if you want to learn more about the possible future of the franchise. Now, enough chit chat, let's tear into this video.
We have a long journey ahead.
Thanks to YouTuber Omega Fantasy, of which his video is linked in the description for you to check out, we have some really in-depth insight into a side quest that was planned for God of War Ragnarok, but was ultimately cut from the game. Thanks to the dialogue that was unearthed in the game's files, we have confirmation that the game was planning to have Surtur's wife, Sinmara, featured prominently in the favor The Summoning, which tasked players to find Sinmara after Surtur failed to restore Ragnarok. The game's code contained text scripts for Sinmara, and the actress and musician Janina Gavankar was credited for the role, although no voiceovers were present in the game's files. The game also had a character model for Sinmara located within the files, revealing a more frozen look in line with her residency in Niflheim, sporting a hole in her chest similar to that of Surtur. This cut content would have seen players find and locate Sinmara, of whom was mentioned by Surtur in the actual game, for her help in bringing to life Ragnarok to aid their fight against Odin in Asgard. Once again, Omega Fantasy did an incredible job extrapolating this information within the game's files, and I encourage you to watch his in-depth video if you want to learn more about it, instead of my TLDR version. His video is, again, linked in the description of this video. In addition to that, after the game's story was completed, another cut favor was discovered where Kratos was tasked to find the hearts of both Surtur and Sinmara and reunite them in the Spark of the World. Upon reuniting the hearts at the Spark of the World, at the spot where Kratos plunged his blades of chaos into the heart of Sinmara in Surtur's chest, there was dialogue that mentioned the possibility of Ragnarok forming again, due to the primordial magics resurrecting the beast. Kratos said he would deal with that should that ever happen. Fascinating stuff, as this could have played an integral role in a sequel if the team at Santa Monica Studio wanted to turn the Norse saga into a trilogy. Even though they are adamant about God of War Ragnarok being the final game set in Norse myth, having the game start with Ragnarok again, plunging the realms into chaos, could have set up the future of the franchise, in which Kratos realizes himself and his allies don't have the strength and firepower to fight back against the beast, and hightail it out of the Norse realms to a different mythology. Just my brain firing out scenarios here, but let me know what you think about this cut content, and whether or not you wished it was put into the game. Moving on. We have yet another video game franchise seeing its likeness adapted into a TV series, similar to Netflix's The Witcher series and the upcoming The Last of Us debuting on HBO Max shortly. God of War is the latest franchise to receive this TV series adaptation, in Amazon's Prime Video, as it aims to retell the story from God of War 2018. Co-produced with Sony Pictures Television and PlayStation Productions, the God of War TV series seeks to retell the story of Kratos and Atreus, father and son, as they seek to ascend the highest peak in all of the realms to spread Faye's ashes. I don't know about you all, but I'm pretty excited to see this retelling of an already exceptional story, and if done well, I'm sure we'll see renewed interest in a follow-up, retelling the events of God of War Ragnarok. But what about you? How do you feel about God of War getting its own TV series? This wasn't something I was even thinking about or even asking for, but it is something that is a pleasant surprise at the very least. Let's hope that the incredible Christopher Judge reprises his role as Kratos in this adaptation. I hope we get to see more detailing Kratos' past in ancient Greece at some point, but all I can do is dream for now. More on the TV series to come as we hear more about it. And now, let's talk about Thor and his death, and what many God of War fans have thoughts about regarding his potential for an appearance in future entries. First things first, we saw the mighty God of Thunder perish right in front of our very eyes, at the tail end of the game when Odin plunges his spear into Thor. It was a sad moment, especially seeing as Thor, the once brutal and terrible god he was known to be in Santa Monica's portrayal of this thunder legend, was just coming around to the idea that Odin was the real poison of Asgard, and that Thor could set a good example for the rest of the Aesir, as Kratos' words seem to have an impact on the brute. Now, death in God of War is a fickle thing. It's difficult to discern whether or not someone has truly passed away or not, as many gods have been utterly destroyed and slaughtered beyond recognition by Kratos in his angry days in ancient Greek mythology. There are 2 deaths in the series, however, that have left many fans scratching their heads, and Thor is indeed one of them. The other, we gotta go all the way back to 2007's God of War 2, to the end of that game where we saw Athena perish. Athena's death was merely accidental from Kratos, and intentional on Athena's end. After brutally impaling Zeus numerous times with the Blade of Olympus, Athena tried to intervene, wishing to prevent the death of Zeus as she wanted Olympus to prevail, and in doing so, stepped in the way of Kratos' strike, cutting her down. As Athena lay, impaled upon the Blade of Olympus, she drew her last breath, and these peculiar green particles emanated from around her body. These green particles are in every way dissimilar to how other gods have died in God of War prior to and after Athena's death, in fact, until Thor drew his last breath upon being impaled by Gungnir, Odin's spear. As we can see here, Thor saw his own body reduced to blue particles, disintegrating his body. Now, I'm not saying that these particles from both these gods' deaths are a result of being impaled by a divine weapon, not at all. What I think we have here is that these gods may have departed by dying an honorable death. Hear me out on this, and feel free to disagree with me all you want in the comments below, but Athena intentionally stepped in the way of Kratos from murdering Zeus, as she didn't want the rest of the Olympic pantheon reduced to a heaping pile of ashes. Thor wished no harm towards Kratos and his family when Odin confronted him as he disobeyed his orders to kill Kratos. The result of Thor opting for peace instead of violence is what got him killed, and in my opinion is an honorable death. A death not given from defeat in battle, but given for not complying to a brutal man's desires. As a result of this, Thor was able to ascend, like Athena, because he died a noble and selfless death. Now, like I said, argue all you want in the comments below as to how you interpret Thor's passing, but hear me out on this next point before clicking off the video, as this relates to a possibility of seeing him in a future God of War game. Now, I'm not saying that we are indeed going to be seeing Thor return in a God of War game, as no one knows at this point what the series will look like and where it will take us until the next game will eventually get revealed. I will say that after Athena perished in God of War 2, she played a major role in God of War 3, appearing as some sort of phantom or apparition that still guided Kratos on his journey. We saw nothing of the like from any of the other gods that had been killed prior, and with Athena reprising her role throughout the rest of the Greek saga, even after her own death, gives me some thought that potentially we will be seeing Thor make some sort of appearance in the future God of War titles. One could even make a strong case that Thrud will certainly appear. Could this all be tied to the higher plane of existence that I talked about and how it could be revealed in a God of War tale involving ancient Egyptian mythology with Anubis and Osiris? Maybe, but if you want to see that video in my new Pantheon hopping series for the future of God of War, feel free to check that video out here on your screen. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel if you loved it. In the next video, we will wander far east to the land of the rising sun, where we will learn all about ancient Japanese mythology. I hope to see all you good people over there. Peace, friends.